welcome and thank you for joining this edition of DCCAP's QA Touch virtual series, QA Masterclass. Today we'll be talking more about learning QA, challenges and opportunities, and innovation-inspired automation, focusing on the basics of software quality assurance, from strategies, opportunities, and challenges to automation tool selection and honing automation skills. My name is Catherine. I'm the partner manager here at DCCAP, and I'll be the host for the event today. And DCCAP is the parent company of QA Touch, which is our test management software solution and what this series is based on. We also host other relevant products in e-commerce and customization with Productimize, integration with our product Chloris, and product information management with FlexiPIM. And please feel free to visit dccap.com for more information about any of our products. This is the 5th iteration of the Masterclass series, and today we do have a great lineup. We'll be featuring 2 amazing presenters. First, we'll be hearing from Dr. Minh Dihn from RMIT University, Vietnam, and then from Sanjay Kumar, creator of SelectorsHub and ChroPath. And we're very pleased to have them both joining us today and offering us some great insight around learning QA. Please feel free to ask any questions whenever you have any. You can add them in the Q&A tab, and we'll be sure to keep track and answer any by the end of the sessions. So to start us off, I'd like to introduce our first presenter. Dr. Minh Dihn is a lecturer at RMIT University, Vietnam. His job involves teaching and developing several new software engineering and IT courses for RMIT's School of Science and Technology. Among many things, his background includes being a researcher and scientific workflows expert, co-authoring several milestone papers at major international conferences, and developing and promoting RCC's cloud and high-performance computing technologies and providing researchers with solutions in the form of the Nimrod and Kepler workflow engines. Thank you so much, Dr. Minh. If you can just please come on and give us your wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much for a very nice introduction there. I will share my screen now. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Catherine, for the very kind introduction there. And again, hello, everyone. My name is Minh, and I'm from the School of Science and Technology, RMIT University here in Vietnam. Before RMIT, I was in Australia, and I was in Monash University, did my PhD there, and the University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia. And like Catherine has introduced me, so my background is very much in high-performance computing, but I did spend some years of my life working as a software engineer, and now I'm a lecturer in software engineering program here in RMIT. Okay, so what's really happened was about maybe 8 months ago. So I was looking for a QA platform to help illustrate my course here in RMIT. And I came across QA Touch. And the QA Touch staff was very supportive. And it is my pleasure to be here today to return the favors and provide some insights about what happened in my class and what the things that I learned from the process and the things that my students have learned, and hopefully we can learn a thing or two from each other, and maybe I can get a few tips and hints to improve the contents of my course. Okay. All right. So the outline for the talk is I will talk a little bit about software quality assurance, especially about how is it meaningful for software engineering students. And then the major part of the talk will be about how I facilitated an authentic learning environment for teaching QA, teaching software QA at the university level. And I will identify and address some challenges, and hopefully we can also have a bit of a discussions on how the existing, the current expectation from the industry for fresh software engineering graduates, and potential for collaboration between educators like myself and industry and software engineers, senior software engineering out there, in how to improve our training and our capacity building in university and college. Okay, so just a few questions to get warm up, right? Is it compulsory for software engineering college students to study software engineering, software testing and quality assurance? Now, for myself, right? And when I was a software engineering student in Monash back in 2003, I remember that software testing and quality assurance wasn't a compulsory or a core subject there for software engineering students. So I don't know about what happened now, but here in RMIT we have this QA and then software testing course, a compulsory course for the program. But back then it wasn't compulsory. So if it wasn't compulsory, did you learn software quality assurance when you was in college? Now, I did not as well. So, and I regret that I didn't pick that for my elective, one of my electives. But and then when I got out there, become a software engineer, I found it's very challenging to like get my head right when it comes to testing, especially testing model code. So I think it's really something that I learned from experience instead. So do you find the learning materials then still useful and practical? So if you did learn SQA back then, if you did learn about software testing back then, is it still useful and practical nowadays? Is it still useful and practical for your work today? And finally, do we really practice what we preach? So this question is possibly more for myself. Every day when you come to class, I tell my student you have to spend more time doing testing. You have to write your test code and test cases before you start developing your solution. Don't jump into the code and try solving problem and things like that. But do we really do that? Do we really write test code and test cases before we start developing some user features? So a bit about myself. So a long-time computer scientist. So I got my PhD in 2013, and I've been a research fellow since then and a lecturer. Now, short-time software engineer. So I did spend about 3 years of my life working as a software engineer after I finished my bachelor degree in computer science, and also an old-time software engineer. So back then we didn't have that many tools like I've seen nowadays. Back then we used things like CVS for version control. We could, with a framework like JEE, we deploy our web application with WebSphere and things like that. And nowadays, when I look out there's so many tools, there's so many frameworks, there's so many different choices when it comes to CI and CD pipeline, things like that. It's a totally different landscape now, and there's so many things I have to learn myself before I can actually come to class and deliver something hopefully useful to my students. So my class, the one that I want to focus today is engineering quality assurance testing. So it's very much about software testing, to be honest. It's a third-year compulsory course for the software engineering program here in RMIT, and we expect students to have some programming skill in Java, some fundamental knowledge in software engineering, and object-oriented programming, and finally some basic computer network knowledge. And here is the syllabus. Okay, so I'm not so sure if it's a bit too dense for a 12-week course at university level, but I do try to cover as many topics as possible when it comes to software testing and a bit of a discussions on software quality assurance. And if you can see there on the left-hand side, topics there. So in the first half of the semester, I try to cover different testing activities like acceptance testing, user acceptance testing, unit testing, integration testing, system testing, etc. Okay, so these are the very basics, very fundamental concepts for the students before they start jumping into the software testing part of the course in the second half of the semester. And we also try to cover as many tools as possible there on the right-hand side. So QA test for project management and test case management. JBehav and Cucumber for framework like behavior driven development, and Postman for API testing and integration testing, JUnit for unit testing, JMeter for performance testing, etc. Okay. In terms of assessments, we have group work, group assignment, and individual work. And the group assignment, we split the class into a group of 4 to 5 students, and the work was about 60%, where we have 2 stages there. The first stage 25, the second stage 25, and then there's 10% for the final presentation, where students deliver their final findings and results. And the focus then would be on the group assignment, right? So like I said, there's 2 stages. And we like students to be able to study the software requirement specification document. And from that, we expect students to be able to draft and devise a test plan and test cases. Okay, and then in stage 2, we expect students to really execute the test cases that they devise in stage 1. And the application that we focus here is a distributed computing application. So I'm going to talk more about that later. But here in stage 1, there's about 40 pages of software specification document that students have to go through. Descriptions of different components of the system and how different components interact with each other, and a bunch of user scenarios that they have to investigate as well, and they can use that to deliver their Cucumber and all JBehav scenarios for testing purpose. And deliverables are, apart from the report, they have to deliver a set of user stories and scenario and a set of test cases, including integration tests, system tests, and UAT. Once they done with the specification, okay, I will provide them with the complete implementations of the application. So there will be a bunch of Java source files, and they will have to start running that and execute their test cases. And also they have to devise and deliver a set of unit test cases as well using JUnit. So to summarize, stage 1, we give the students the specification text, and they have to use that to deliver test cases. And stage 2, they now get to see the application. They now get to see the code. They will have to then go and try to execute the test cases they have in stage 1. They possibly have to remove many of them, update many of them, and add many more test cases in there, so that they can actually execute some sort of testing for the application. About the application, so it's a distributed computing application. So basically, it has a bunch of components, individual and independent components that are running in parallel. So we have a bunch of sensors. So this application is called EnviroSmart. So it's basically simulate a smartphone app that helps users to be able to detect a bunch of environmental factors like the air pollution, air quality, the location where the user is, the alarm, the weather with the weather alarm, and also a temperature sensors as well. So there's a bunch of sensors. There's a weather alarm. There's a location server that can receive live location information from the user, and then all of these information is absorbed by the context manager that will analyze and evaluate the sensory data and then deliver warnings to the user according to user references. Okay, and we have a little database there, a reference repository as well to store the user references. Okay, and finally the UI. So overall, there's a bunch of components, and all these components are individual, and they can execute it by themselves, and they can be integrated step by step as well to deliver the final application to the user. So when I designed this assessment task, this group assignment task, I was thinking about how the student can how to simulate the integration process, so student can jump in there and start seeing how components are working with each other, investigate the API between different components there, and etc. So we can resonate the importance of doing unit testing. Yeah, so you can test different components individually, integration testing, and finally system testing. Okay, so that was my wishy-washy kind of idea, and but I think it didn't turn out very well. So here's some student performance data. So we have 9 groups here. So initially we have 10 groups, but then one group, some students dropped out of the course. So we went down to 9 groups. And you can see here on the left-hand side, I have group assignment results that split into stage 1, stage 2, and the final presentation. Now all the data you're seeing here are not the exact value, but the relative percentage value, so that we can see, whether certain groups are doing better or worse in certain aspect. So here, on the left-hand side, the overall assignment result. So overall, stage 1 was pretty okay for the students. So a few groups there got over 90, 2 groups there got over 90% for their work. We have some groups struggle to understand the specifications and deliver test cases, but overall, most of them have done a fair job and got about at least 60%. The stage 2, then we see a bit of a drop in performance there. So for groups that have done very well on stage 1, they struggle a little bit to execute all the test cases. For groups that couldn't deliver in stage 1, they also struggle as well because they don't have so many test cases to execute. Okay. Apart from group A there, who did very bad on stage 1 and did a lot better on stage 2, I think they possibly learned a fair bit in the process there, and they realize now they have the code in front of them, they can deliver test cases and execute test cases much more much easier. But if we look into the stage 1 and stage 2 there, okay, so stage 1, analyzing the software specification, so that's the one on the top right. Okay, so we have 4 components, 4 main components in there. First, we require students to understand the basic concepts and techniques. So this is about understanding what it means to do system testing, what it means to do integration testing, what it means to do UAT testing and things like that. Now we haven't covered unit testing in this stage 1 yet because there's no code to do unit testing. What we want to see in there is, given the specification, given the user scenarios, how do you devise and create a test plan and test cases? So overall there you see I think now creating a test plan. So only a few groups did well on that. A majority of them didn't do very well. So most of them only got about 50 to 60% there. And also applying appropriate testing techniques to the requirements, to the user requirements. So that's the grade 1. So students didn't do very well there, especially group 10, for example. They possibly got about 50% only on that part of the stage 1. Come to stage 2. So we look at 3 main components there. So again, also understand basic concepts and techniques. So this is more about understanding how to execute test cases, and also then use available tools and software for executing test cases. So this part, we look at how students apply the tools and practices that we have covered in the first half of the semester to deliver test result for this group assignment. And finally, write quality project reports. So that's similar to the one on top as well. And so, like I said there, students struggle a fair bit to apply tools to execute the test cases. Okay, so let's go a bit further there. So, so where's the confusion? So some of the students did fairly well on applying the practices and the concepts, onto the application and the code. But some groups struggle a lot when it comes to different parts of the software testing process. So here is a bit of a performance data when it comes to different testing phases in the process. So we have about 45% of the student. No, actually, it's more like 45% of the complaints from the student, feedback from the student that integration testing was a bit too confusing. So most of the students struggle with identifying where to start with integration testing. Now, I think the problem here that I had was that the complete application was provided to the student, and the students struggle to start picking upon where they have to do integration and therefore integration testing. And they also struggle to try to automate the integration test phases as well. They were trying to think about how to create objects and mock objects to simulate the integration process. And then the confusion is there as well, right? So when it comes to integration, you have top-down approach and top-down and bottom-up approach and things like that. So that also relates to where to start and what to do, what to test. Some students also struggle with seeing why integration need to be done. Integration testing need to be done. So they said that the whole applications is here. Why don't we just go and do functional tests and use acceptance testing and things like that? Why do we really care about integrating like a pairs of components or a couple of components together individually? Okay. And about 32% of the complaints was also about system testing. Okay, so because I think we try to cover so many different system testing activities in the course, like performance testing, functional testing, usability testing, and then when it comes to performance testing, we also have the load testing and then stress testing and things like that. So the student got a bit confused as well, seeing what they need to include in their testing process. And finally, about 50% of the students also got confused with UAT. I think the confusion here was very much about the differences between UAT and system testing. Okay, so when it comes to functional testing, they will have test cases to demonstrate how user would be able to different features that user requirements need to be tested, and the same set of test cases can be used for UAT as well, but is performed by a different set of users supposedly. So so the problem here is why UAT and how to perform proper UAT without having real users here. Okay, so many students struggle to do system testing and then replicate that or like perform something very similar for UAT again. Okay. So that was my observation based on its student performance. At the end of the course here in RMIT, we also ask students to put in their course feedback, course evaluation. And so here are a few key points from the student feedback that I got. Apart from the first one, which very much about my teaching, student was pretty happy, so that's good. We can see straight away that at the top column there, so there's only 50% of the student believe that the digital resources provided in this course have been useful for their learning. Okay, so I think a student did notice that they need more help on using the tools. They need more tools, especially when it comes to automation, testing automation. They need more tools to help them with integration testing. Some students managed to do integration testing using mock and mock the object and mock their network connections and things like that. But many students struggle to actually get through that part of the testing process. Apart from that, students also said they think that they need more activities to engage in the learning in this course as well. Okay, so from the performance, student performance data, and from their feedback, overall feedback on the course, then I identify a few challenges, a few problems that I would like to tackle and improve in my future deliveries of the course. First, authentic assessment tasks. Okay, even though I think that providing student a distributed computing applications like the EnviroSmart is useful to have students to illustrate, to see why and how integration can be done, and why integration testing, for example, is important. At the same time, too, I think I failed to actually simulate the process, the integration process there that need to happen, that normally happen in the industry, in the real project. So maybe there's something here that you can help me to identify and to improve. I think providing the student the complete application, like the whole source code to test, and ask them to do integration testing, for example, is a bit overwhelming. And more simulations and more maybe instruction need to be given there. Okay, differentiate between various testing phases and tools. So this is also a challenge, right? So I mentioned before, some students got confused between system testing, like functional testing, and UAT. Some students also got confused between unit testing and integration testing. So they perform JUnit and then they mock objects to perform some integration, to test some integration between different components there, and they also confused between doing the unit testing and integration testing. Understanding the requirements to write first code, then test code, and then test cases. Okay, I think potentially it was a bit too overwhelming for students to go through a 40 pages document and identify the user requirements and what need to be tested, and then later write a code to test to execute test cases. And also there's a cognitive problem here. So even though I try in the design there, I have stage 1 where students have no access to the code, and stage 2 they have access to the code. But I think there's still a cognitive problem here, challenge here, where students always have a tendency to code, right? To see the code. That reflected, say, for example, in this figure here. Group A there, for example, you can see that in stage 2, once they see the code, they can grasp the idea about what needs to be tested much better. Okay, and also there's another cognitive problems. I guess everybody is also find challenging as well. Is to find bugs or not to find bugs. Okay, so many students I noticed that once they got the code in their hand, they start doing debugging instead of testing the code. And also they also try to, once they fail some tests, test cases, they have the tendency to go and debug the code and try to find the bugs. And some of them actually deliver some bug fixing in their final presentations as well. But that also illustrates a cognitive challenge here, where students and also I think junior software engineers have a tendency to work with the code, to write more code instead of focus on testing and test cases a priori. So, and then I have 4 more points here, and they are highlighted because I have no idea how to actually tackle them at the moment. So testing the complete application. I think the fact that I provide students with a complete application and the source code have a very big impact on how the group assignment can be implemented. But I don't know how to deal with this yet. I mean, maybe I can release certain number of components on a weekly basis, so that students can only have a handful of components to test before they see the whole application. But that's sort of, I believe, that sort of management or that sort of configuration, assessment configuration is a bit too complicated to coordinate. And then automation testing. So automating the testing. So JUnit is straightforward. Some part of integration testing can also be done as well automatically. But many students struggle with using things like Cucumber to automate the creations of user scenario and transcribe that into executable test cases. Regression testing. Okay, so this possibly related back to the last question that I asked before. Do we really practice what we preach? Right. So throughout the course, I mentioned to the students that regression testing is very important. You always have to perform regression testing once you perform some code modifications or some changes to your software design, or even a new software, a new user requirement come into the project. But there was no room for me to actually get students to practice anything to do with regression testing there. So there's no, because this related to the complete application things as well. So I provide them with the complete application. There's no room then for them to actually perform any regression testing. And finally, more on quality assurance. So far I have talked and discussed a fair bit about software testing. Major group assessment task is also about software testing. Do we need to talk more about quality assurance, software quality assurance in this course? Given that, to my belief, that the course is fairly dense already in terms of materials and activities. Okay, so this is almost at the end of my talk. So those are my observations, my initiative and design for my course, and the assessment, and my observations throughout the course using student performance and their feedback. So I wonder, is there anything here that we can is there any low-hanging fruit that we can attack straight away to improve the course and improve the student performance and experience in such a course? Say, for example, right, from industry point of view, your expectation. So how much software testing experience is expected here from a new software engineering graduate? What do you expect from your junior software engineers when it comes to an interview, for example? Also, how to increase the level of testing automation. So this one I struggle as well, and I think we can learn a thing or two in the next talk today, right? How do we teach software testing in the DevOps culture? Now, to be fair and to be frank, I have zero experience in DevOps. I mean, when I was, like I said, I was an old-time software engineer. Back then, we hardly practiced things like Agile in our team, and now it's a very different landscape for me. And I wonder, how we can actually apply these Agile methodologies and the DevOps culture to teaching and learning software testing. Okay. And a similar kind of question here. So what are the roles of QA engineers in DevOps team? I'm pretty sure I can find this the answer to the question somewhere, but I just want to bring some answers to the context of my talk here and my course here. What tools, like software testing tools, do you expect software engineering students to be familiar with when they get out there and look for a job? Okay, so here we try to introduce students to a range of different tools that illustrate different parts of the software testing process. Is there anything else that is missing there? Okay, and finally, opportunities for industry to intervene. Now, the reason why I asked these questions is because when I was looking for a QA platform to illustrate my course, I came across QA Touch, and I found it's very useful. But still, some students told me that it wasn't easy for them to navigate and to make the best out of the tool. So I hope that in the future there will be more opportunities for educators like myself be able to experience and explore more tools that the industries are using, and then somehow bring that into my course, and equip students with something that they can be comfortable with when they get out there to find a job and to work as a software engineer. Okay, so that's my talk, Q&A. Thank you for your attention. So it's Q&A now. So I hope you can answer the question that I asked in my slide just then. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Minh.
Yeah.
We do have a question in our Q&A here for you that I'll pose to you right now.
Okay, yes, I can see it now. So
yes,
how could
Wayne
we
says,
actually improve the test coverage of the company products? This is a tough one because I haven't been a software engineer in industry for some time now, and it would be a question I would ask like the audience here, if anyone can help me to do something similar in as part of my course as well. So how do we actually simulate some things like this, and then illustrate the improvements of test coverage for real software product? If I had to answer this, I would say that do more testing, and possibly focus more on system testings and integration testing, and make sure that you do write test code and test cases before you start doing any coding. Okay.
There's also one more from him. Do you emphasize on the unit testing before passing to QA?
Do I emphasize on the unit testing before passing? Yes, yes. So so let me go back to my previous slides here. Okay, so yeah. So go back to my syllabus here. You can see that I started talking about covering acceptance testing first, but then straight away I talk about unit testing. So I think it's very important for students to understand, and software engineers as well, to understand that you need to test your code before anything else. So it has to start from there. Before you pass your code and your unit of code to someone else to test, you have to make sure that you pass your own unit testing activities. So yes, my answer is yes. And I think I did try to emphasize that in the way that I designed the course.
Perfect. Okay. Yes, that was all the questions, it looks like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Minh. I think it was just really, really helpful to hear your insights, and we appreciate, you going into such great detail, and through the learning process and the challenges faced and industry expectations. It's a lot of really good information. So thank you so much. And
thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Well, now I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Sanjay Kumar. And he is a renowned speaker, significant contributor, and a passionate automation enthusiast. As a self-learned, self-employed individual, he runs the extra miles to make sure testers and developers' life's easy. He's an avid blogger and has written more than a dozen blogs across different media. And Sanjay, I'd like to invite you to come on board and start your presentation with us, please.
Thank you, Catherine, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you, Minh, for the great presentation. I really love it and appreciate what you're doing. It's a really good, wonderful presentation. I learned a lot today. So without taking further time, I would like to thank all the attendees, those who are on the call, and really good to be here on the QA Masterclass number 5 and with the QA touch. So, okay. My topic is today innovation-inspired automation, like how we are getting inspired through automation and what we are doing. I hope my voice and screen is clear, Catherine. You can confirm us. It's all fine. My video and screen you are able to see. Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So innovation, like you see in every, like we have automations in place. We are writing the scripts on a daily basis, like, but after sometimes what happened, we became the every automation becomes like tedious, like a monotonous job. like you see, okay, we have some tools, but after that, like what it becomes like we are doing in a routine job. So let me take an example for this one to show you that what we are doing. Like we all are writing automation. So while writing the automation, you see that we all are saying here that we are writing UI automation. Okay, but I have done a lot of surveys and I found that most of us are writing the selectors. I'm just taking an example here to make you guys understand about the automation and how we should do the innovation. So here, like we as a web UI automation engineer, we are wasting almost like 80% of time writing the locators. And we are saying that we are all are automation engineer and we are doing automation. But you see here in 2020, in era of COVID, we have smart editors for everything. But how we are writing selectors, how we are writing the XPath, we are still copying the value from the DOM like this, selecting a value, copying that, and then pasting and typing. It is something like writing the code in Notepad in 2020, where we have Eclipse, PyCharm, IntelliJ, so many editors for all the technologies, for all the languages, we have different. But for our UI automation engineer, for our web automation engineer, for our tester, for our developer, web developer, we still writing XPath, we still writing CSS selector like we are writing code in Notepad, even in 2020. And on an average, how much time we are wasting on it? As I said, like we did a lot of surveys, and I found that almost like 80%, 70 to 80% time we are wasting in this. And in fact, like just writing 1 or 2 selectors on an average, you can see here what people are saying, like 5 to 10 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, like that. This much time just writing one selector. And believe me, on an average, if somebody is writing automation, they are writing more than between 50 to 100 selectors in a day. Imagine how much time they are putting in this thing. And they are writing like manually, locally, where like a notepad. To solve this problem, I kept giving a lot of thoughts, like how can we solve this problem, so that like how those people would have thought at that time, like who has invented IntelliJ, who has invented Eclipse, how they would have thought, like, okay, something is there, like they are writing code, why don't we, like while typing itself, we start suggesting them something. Similar thought, I put it here, put some effort, did a lot of surveys here and there, and a lot of coding gone in there, and introduced this new reality, made this possible for the very first time. A new reality: build your own XPath and CSS selector in less than 5 seconds without compromising any learning skills, with the auto suggest feature like in Smart IntelliJ. And here it is, the SelectorsHub. Let me show you what it does. How to install? It's very simple. You just go to selectorshub.com and you can install it. And it's available for all those browsers. What it does, you see, like as soon as you start typing, let me show you how does it immediately, like in IntelliJ, when we start typing code, you know that like we have written something, like let's say driver dot we put, immediately it start suggesting, you can, from the drop down you can select that value. Similarly, like here, as soon as you start typing something, your selector, it start giving you the XPath and CSS selector functions accordingly, whatever you are doing. And this is the very first and the only innovation which does so and which made it possible. Let me give you a real-time example. For example, let's say you have installed SelectorsHub, and it will come here as a toolbar. You have installed it. Inspect any element here. Let's say for an example, we inspect this SelectorsHub here. Okay, how we are doing it today? We are writing like this. You do Command F here, then /A. You see, as soon as we start typing, this used to go up and down. And believe me, everybody is doing like this way. Let me just zoom in. This is everyone doing like this way. They type this, then again we'll have to inspect this element because that has gone. Now here, this SelectorsHub looks like unique, so we will try to type text here. And you see, as soon as we type something, this here again gone. Again, we'll have to inspect. So these are the pain points. and we will copy this value. And see, there's a lot of junk space came, so we'll have to make it contains test. Okay, there's something wrong. I missed the parentheses. Okay, 1 of 3. So this is the problem. Like we did a lot of things. 3 times we inspected just to write one element, and then we copy the value typing. This is something like writing the code on Notepad, though we have IntelliJ. Let me show you same thing in SelectorsHub. You just open SelectorsHub, whatever is inspected, you just start typing and see the magic. As soon as you type, you got the value, you just open parentheses and there you go. You see, we got the unique selectors within a few seconds. You see, that's it. Nothing. I mean, you just blink your eyes and you are building your own selectors. There's no more time waste, no more copying the value. Like imagine you are copying the value from here, you are typing here, then you miss something. So a lot of time we are wasting. And this is really good for those who are just start learning things. And this is going to a huge time saver. And it's supposed, like for example, we have inspected this element. You see, it suggests all kinds of functions, and a beginner or expert can learn from this tool itself. This tool is like kind of expert guide, expert uh, compiler, debugger, you can say selectors compiler basically, which itself is like so much explanatory that you don't need any book, you don't need any like someone to like every time, you don't need a trainer every time. Like you, if you got stuck somewhere that whether I can use this one, what to write, what not to write, what all functions, everything, every possible function it used to suggest, like contains, dot function, normalize space, text, contains text, normalize space, equal, all those functions it used to suggest. It also suggests like what is not possible, like with zero, I mean dot is equal to, if you put this one, then there will be zero matching node. So you learn from here. So it helps you a lot to learn about selectors. And this tool itself, like previously we used to talk, we used to say that if you will use an expert tool or selectors tool, you will lose your skills. But this selectors had changed that definition itself. Now, if you will use this tool, you will become an expert. While using other tools, like because many people have this question, like why one more tool, why one more expert tool, why one more new wheel? So this is the region that with this tool, you will become an expert. While using other expert tool or whatever they have in the past, you were losing their skills, like because they were auto suggesting, and here you are like making your own selectors. So this is really amazing. And there are like, this is just like very small one feature I've seen. There are a lot of features here. Like people have, I mean, as a beginner, many times we don't know how many siblings we have. I'm sure like those who are on the call, none of us can say that how many siblings we have. Like immediate siblings we can tell, but like uncle's daughter, my maternal uncles, and all those people, like family, relatives, we don't know how many siblings we have at a stage, right? So similarly, like here, we don't, I mean, if somebody asks you like what all siblings are there, and suppose we don't remember that, we don't know what are siblings. So this tool will help you to know about what are the siblings possible, what are the descendants, ancestor, and everything. You can get it from there itself. Like you just start typing, you will get them. Then what else selectors have made it possible, which was never possible in the history? Let's see on this screen. Can we verify selectors for pseudonyms elements? It was never possible. Believe me, it was never possible. Let me show you how. There was no tool, nothing was there where we can verify pseudodoms elements, pseudodom selectors. Let me show you. Even Chrome DevTools was not supporting that. In fact, like as a beginner, immediately I would never understand that this element is inside pseudodom, the very first problem. Now, somehow I got to know, okay, this is inside shadow DOM. Immediately, nobody would be able to know until unless they don't have a good knowledge of DOM. If you don't have a good knowledge of DOM, it will be really hard for you to identify whether this element is inside shadow. Now, suppose you don't know anything, I don't know anything, and we just started, inspected this element, and we started writing. So what we will do, we will write XPath for this one, right? So let's say write, and ID is also there. Okay, that I will come on that point, I know. So double forward slash input, you can see 0 of 0 it is showing. Okay, what we will do, we will let's say use ID here, and we will type @ID is equal to this. It is showing 0 of 0. What to do now? You will be like scratching your head, like I have written the correct X path, but why it's not finding? It is 0 of 0. What to do now? Let's try CSS selector. So what we will do, we will write hashtag input, which is an ID. It is showing still 0 of 0. And that problem is always there, like it used to scroll. So this one. Now what to do? How to solve this problem? And at least like if you are not aware about Shadow DOM, you will never be able to solve this problem in the DOM with the with the help of Chrome Dev Tools or any tools out there in the market. And it was never invented. Nobody solved this problem. Let SelectorsHub made it possible. SelectorsHub made it possible, and see the magic now. You just open SelectorsHub, immediately it tells you that this element is inside Shadow DOM. How much time it is going to save for you. And how people are doing it today, they used to write like this. They put it in their script, they execute their script and see whether it's working or not. And just to write one selector, they are wasting almost 15 to 20 minutes of time, giving it hit and try. Like if it works, then it's fine, or otherwise try something else, keep trying. Now you do one same thing here, and you see it is telling you, SelectorsHub itself is telling you that enter CSS selector only, as expert doesn't support for Shadow DOM. So it gives you the information, make you an expert on that, like what is possible, what is not possible, whether this is an inside Shadow DOM or a normal element. Okay, now you just type hash, it will immediately suggest you the CSS selector function and made it possible for you. And here you see that we are able to verify our selectors for Shadow DOM elements, which was never possible. And imagine like from the time when the web or XPath or this web automation was, or web development was introduced, from that day till date, we have wasted how much time. And now the SelectorsHub is here, which is solving this problem. Such a big problem it has solved. And it made it possible. And if you do anything wrong, like double forward slash input, and if you hit enter, it will tell you that invalid CSS selector, XPath doesn't support Shadow DOM. This gives you that information as well. And this is the region that within a month SelectorsHub, where SelectorsHub is today. This is what SelectorsHub made it possible. SVG element support. It has SVG element support. Like many of us doesn't know like whether what is SVG. In fact, as a beginner, many of us don't know that what is SVG element. And in fact, we don't know that the standard XPath format doesn't support SVG element. For an example, if somebody has inspected this element, if we don't have much knowledge of DOM, we won't be able to know that this is an SVG element, because the SVG is not there. Nothing SVG is there, right? There's a path. There could be one more child element of SVG. So if somebody knows that this is SVG child, then okay, they will start writing for that. But let me show you. Even Chrome DevTools give you the wrong format of SVG element. If you copy this XPath over here, you see that 0 of 0. Let's open SelectorsHub. Let SelectorsHub help you to learn that. Immediately it tells you that this is SVG element. And when you will start typing XPath, it will give you the correct format of SVG elements, SVG child element. And that there it will help you like this. Here you go. And if you type more, it will suggest more options. And if it is not finding unique selectors, then it also helps you with the indexes. Like SelectorsHub also supports indexes. What you do, like put your cursor in the beginning, open parenthesis, and there you go, and make it unique. Such a simple thing. Makes life so much easy and support everything. And if you do anything wrong, like double forward slash, if you SVG, if you will try, it will immediately tell you that invalid XPath, invalid SVG XPath format, and makes you learn. But here in DevTools, it will never tell you that what is wrong or what is not. You see, this is wrong. But so DevTools will never tell you. These are the things which SelectorsHub made it possible, and the reason why everybody is loving, and why it is what problems it is solving. It supports iframe, it supports frame, everything it supports. Like if any element will be inside frame, it will tell that that element is inside frame. like this in frame. Here you can build your own XPath here. If any element will be inside frame, then it will tell you that it is inside frame. So all those, it will it solves all those problems. Now the question comes like, can someone tell me what's wrong in my selector? Like here we were writing like this selector was wrong, but DevTools was not telling us, right? But this is wrong. So let's just put inspect any element here like this. And when you inspect and put, it will tell you that this element is not correct. Like XPath, you type /SV and it will tell you that this is wrong XPath. But while what DevTools was telling, no, nothing. It was just showing 0 of 0. Like we have written, let's say we have written some XPath here, button, and then we have written this XPath. By mistake, suppose we have missed some square bracket and we copy this here and paste it here. Let me make a small XPath so that I can show you better things. Let's say we have, while copying, we missed something here, okay? And we paste it here. Here in DevTools, it will never gonna tell you that what is wrong. You will think that, okay, something is missing. I mean, maybe this selector is not finding, it is wrong. I will write it again. But if you paste that same thing here in SelectorsHub, it will tell you the correct error, what is missing in your selector. With the help of this, you can solve that problem and immediately fix that issue. And this is how you are going to save a lot of time. And if you do anything wrong here, it will tell you that what is allowed, what is not allowed. So basically, it is making you perfect in writing selections. If you do anything wrong, it will tell you that what you are missing here, like add a tag name after /. So it tells you that what wrong you are doing. If you type something, what is allowed, what is not allowed, everything it tells you, and saves you a lot of time and energy and make you perfect in writing SelectorsHub. So this is the only possible solution. This is the very first compiler or debugger you can say, which gives you the proper error message, what is missing, what is not missing, and what is possible. Security. Many people have this question in mind, like because this is a browser extension, so how secure it is, because many companies doesn't allow. Let me tell you, this is the most, or this is the safest plugin ever built. Why I'm saying so? Because it injects the script inside your website when you open SelectorsHub. When you tell SelectorsHub that you want to use it for this website, for example, let's say you have opened twitter.com. Now, whichever plugins you have installed, they have already injected their script in your website. But SelectorsHub haven't done that right till now. When you will open SelectorsHub here, then only it will inject its script in your website and it will start interacting with your website and working for you. While other plugins, believe me, other plugins, whatever XPath plugins you have, they have already injected their script in your website. So this is the reason that SelectorsHub is the most secure plugin. It doesn't save any user data. Another big reason, it doesn't save any user data. It runs only on your local. So this is the most safest plugin and there is no issue in using it. And every company is making it whitelisted. Every company is allowing it. And if you need anything written from me, you can take it. Does it slow down my computer? Not at all, because it never injects with your script and with your website unless you doesn't allow it. You don't want to use it. It is the very optimized and very small in size compared to other browser plugins. Like it is almost like less than 250 KB. So this is the 100% performance. There is no issue. If you want to support SelectorsHub, you can share it. Please write blogs, articles, tutorial, etc. And this is not even 10% of the innovation, a lot more on your way. This is absolutely free plugin. There's no license required. This is absolutely for the community. I'm working on this plugin full time. I'm not working for any company. I'm just working for the community. And how I'm surviving, I'm totally dependent on the donation and the sponsor for this plugin. So I would really request, like, please support it. What are the SelectorsHub achievement? It's been like 29th of July. I have launched it last month, and just 1 month. It is being used in more than 80 countries. It became the #1 CSS selector tool in Chrome Store. It started appearing in engineers' LinkedIn profile. It might be like very first innovation which have appeared in LinkedIn profiles in resumes of engineers within a 1 month of launch. got more than 5,000 downloads just in 1 month. Engineers calls it lifesaver innovation, and it also appears in Udemy automation courses. And this all happened just in a month of launch of this innovation. Huge thanks to all the SelectorsHub sponsors and Patreon supporters, donors. And if you need any help, I would really request you to please check out the footer links at the SelectorsHub tab. When you will open, there are all the important links for all these problems and like whatever, if you want to discuss something with me, any new feature request, any issue you found if you're not able to use it. So please check out all those links. And with that, my heartfelt gratitude to all of you, and thank you for joining and thank you for attending. Huge thanks to Bhavani to give me this opportunity to interact with QATS team, and all thanks to QATS team for the great event today and giving me this opportunity. With that, thank you so much. You can connect with me anytime on any of the social media platform, and feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to serve you guys. With that, thank you so much. Now I can take all your Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sanjay. I'm going to come back on here. It looks like we do have a question in the chat here for you.
Sure.
Someone's asking to know the difference between ChroPath and SelectorsHub, if you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I just wanted to see the Q&As. Where are the Q&A chat? Yep. So, hi, Mr. May I know what's the difference between ChroPath and SelectorsHub? Sure. So, SelectorsHub is completely different. Like what all features you have seen, ChroPath doesn't have any of these features, like this auto suggest feature. It is the very first tool which has this auto suggest feature. It is the only tool which SelectorsHub which supports Shadow DOM. It is like ChroPath doesn't support Shadow DOM. ChroPath doesn't gives these kind of error message. This is the only compiler. And I'm not working anymore on ChroPath, so you might have not seen any of the update from last 3 months. Last I worked, I left that. So my I mean there was like different circumstances were there like that I had to leave that. So you will not get any more update or any more innovation in ChroPath from my side. So the only similarity is that I'm the creator and innovator of both the tools, SelectorsHub and ChroPath. But yeah, SelectorsHub is the new reality. And they're like, this is going to be 100 times more powerful, and it is. Thank you for that question.
Great.
Like, because everybody has that question in mind, because both are my innovations, and people are thinking like which one is better. Thank you for that question.
Always good to clarify. So
yeah.
It is good. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, looks like those are all the questions. Well, thank you so much, Sanjay, for telling us more about SelectorsHub and all the great benefits and its ability to really ease the entire process. It's certainly very helpful. We appreciate you taking the time and sharing your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah. So another question, can you give some insight on what is coming next in SelectorsHub? So yes, so as I said, like this is just 10% of innovation and a lot more coming. So in the next release, I'm working on 2.0, which is going to be like very huge, and a lot more is coming. I can say the one new feature which is coming, which is going to completely change the game of web UI automation, as we all are moving towards like JavaScript based frameworks, like you have seen that nowadays Cypress is evolving a lot. Many other frameworks are coming. WebDriver IO is there. Like, so everybody is moving towards that in that way. So SelectorsHub 2.0 is something really amazing is coming, which is going to complete changing the definition of selectors itself. I would say I'm going to introduce a new selector for you all, and which we all are talking from the beginning, but we never got that. You will see that in 2.0. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Wayne, for your kind words. Yeah.
Well, it looks like we've got all the questions then.
Thank you, guys. And if you have any question, feel free to shoot out any question or anything related to automation or SelectorsHub, ChroPath, anything, or XPath.
Yes, great. Okay, well then I guess I will just wrap it up. This, again, has been a great session. Thank you again to our wonderful presenters, Sanjay, of course, and Dr. Minh Ngoc Dihn. It was a pleasure hosting you guys and having you on today. We're definitely, grateful for having the important insights in software testing and hearing all that you had to offer today. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Min, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, Seja, for joining and hosting this great session. It was really wonderful experience.
Thank you, Sanjay. That was very interesting.
Thank you, Min.
Thank you, everybody. And we do have these sessions every month, so be sure to keep watch on dccap.com/events. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day or evening wherever you are.